Back in the old days, when a part on your farm equipment broke, you couldn't just get on the internet and order a new part. You had to make it yourself. And that's what farmers did. If they had access to a torch or a forge and a scrap pile of steel, and they looked at a part and they said, I could make that. Then they did that. Part on the manure spreader broke, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to just make a new one. Hi, it's Chad with Heirloom Farm and Forge, and here I am working on this manure spreader again. Luckily, it's pretty easy to manufacture parts for it. But what has happened, I kind of already took it apart, but there's a wheel that goes right in here, and as the wheel turns, or the sprocket turns, there's a wheel in here, and it pushes this thing back and forth, which pushes this and advances the belt that pushes the manure back. And this wheel that was in here was getting wore out, and it would slide over and completely miss the sprocket. And so I'm going to make a new one. Let's get to it. So here's the wheel that I was talking about. As you can see, like, it's wore a huge groove in both sides of it, because it would slide over to one side and the advancer would just rub on the side of it and just wore it out. All right, I'm going to take this, put it on this 1/4 inch metal, and scribe around it. Do that twice, basically make a wheel out of this. So I was looking for a tape measure and a square to mark the center of this, and I saw this used up grinder cutting wheel laying there. I thought that's about the right size, so I matched it up, and it is just almost exactly the right size here. So I'm just going to take it, line it up real good, and scribe the inside of this line. Now that doesn't perfectly find me the center, but the smaller the circle is, the easier it is to even estimate the center of the thing. So I can mark an X on the center. I think I did pretty good. So here's the original spacer that went in there, and I put my caliper on it because my daughter Layla lost my tape measure. And so we know that this is the total width that the pulley has to be. And so I did some grinding and whatnot and got this to where it is now the same size, or a touch smaller than the original. Now, since this is, like the axle or the bushing around the axle, and it's the same size as this, I didn't have a drill bit big enough to drill a hole for this size to fit through. So now this has to fit inside, which means I have to cut or grind off this in order to weld it inside of this. Makes sense? Clear as mud? All right, let's do it. So now I'm going to reset my calipers to this size. Tighten down the little set screw. And try to scratch it on here. Which I can barely see that, so I'm going to mark it also with a Sharpie. And I'm going to cut it just a touch long and grind it down to final size, because it needs to fit pretty tight in there. All right, I think we've got all the parts in shape, so let's put the bolt on. Bolt through the first piece, and the sleeve. Then the roller, and then the last piece. Of course, the advantage of having a bolt and nut through there just holds everything in place, so I can weld it. Definitely not a very good welder, but it don't take much to hold this. I gotta weld the little middle piece in there. There. Now I have to grind that well out of there so I can put the pin back in. Well, that chewed some of the weld out, and now I'll use probably a Dremel tool to get the rest. Well, there's the old one and the new one together. The new one looks a lot bigger. I hope it fits in there. Of course, the old one was really small inside where it goes, so let's go put it on. Come on. I use the hillbilly hammer. There it went. I'm going to try to show you how this works. Okay, so that's what we got. This here sprocket spins and it pushes this in and out, and every time it pushes in it advances this pulley, and that turns a chain that turns the chain belt. And then that slowly advances the chain belt back, which pushes the manure back a little at a time into all these spiky things that spin and tear it up and shoot it out to these fins that throw it everywhere on your pasture, which then gives the grass nutrients to grow, the cows to eat, us to eat the cows. Circle of life, baby. So now me and Rue and Monkey are spreading manure. She's working good. There it is, best free fertilizer on the market. Thanks for watching.